Welcome to the Sustainability Nugget podcast. I am Rarisu Marivi.
And I'm Tosin Folorunsho.
On this podcast, we learn about sustainability by discussing various related topics while focusing on three pillars: the economy, the society, and the environment. Hello guys, welcome back to the pod. Today we have a guest, Bernadett Papp from Pact Capital, and she'll be here today discussing all things carbon trading, carbon offsets, and carbon markets. Welcome, Bernadett.
Good morning, good afternoon, and thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for being on here today. So just to start off, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, of course. So my name is Bernadett Papp. I'm from Hungary, Budapest. I graduated from the University at Veszlórend in Budapest and have an MBA in business administration. I've started my career as an equity analyst, preparing discounted cash flow models for power companies. But from 2012, I started following the European compliance market, the so-called EU ETS. And currently, I work for Pact Capital as head of market analysis. Pact Capital, as we will speak about it, I think more in detail in the future, is focusing on project development. So here I have the opportunity also to have an insight into the voluntary carbon market. So I could expand my coverage here with my new position. My main tasks at the company are to support the decision-making of our management and also our sales team with information, writing newsletters, and also preparing price forecasts for the compliance market in Europe. With my colleagues, we also organize workshops and webinars. We record our own podcast series to spread information and knowledge about carbon markets and to provide updates about regulatory changes in the European emissions trading system. So I think this is it.
Yeah, so awesome. I know you said Pact Capital does project development, but can you go into more details? What is really the focus and mission, and what type of project do they develop?
Yeah. So as mentioned before, the main profile of Pact Capital is project development, which means financing and also implementation of climate-friendly projects registered with the biggest standards worldwide. I think you know the names of Gold Standard, Vera, or the Clean Development Mechanism of the UN. These projects also generate carbon credits that are used by companies to offset their unabatable emissions. So these projects also generate carbon credits that are used by companies to offset their unabatable basis or to comply with compulsory systems. During the past couple of years, we have accumulated plenty of knowledge, especially in projects related to renewable energy, energy efficiency, and we are especially proud of our biogas project line, but we have also invested into wind, hydro, efficient lighting, and afforestation projects. The geographical scope of the project is also quite wide, from America through Europe to Asia. Our mission is actually to demonstrate the green transition that can be profitable on multiple levels. To get to the implementation phase, we have to make sure, of course, that the project will be profitable financially, but all our projects put a special emphasis on the improvement of the life conditions of the people law nearby. We involve local business, and we also prioritize on-site capacity building. Of course, the projects generate carbon credits, as I've mentioned before. We got also involved in carbon trading, and here we expanded our coverage also to compliance markets, as I mentioned before, simply because many of our clients, the buyers of the credits, also have a compliance obligation in a regional system, and we just try to provide a global solution for all their environmental questions and issues. In addition, we also have a trading desk for energy attribute certificates, because certain clients would like to claim the use of green energy, so guarantees of origin in Europe or renewable energy certificates or IREX are good tools to do that in practice. And maybe a third pillar of our business is education. So as mentioned before, we organize workshops and webinars on a regular basis. We do the podcast, but we also cooperate with many other market participants, even schools. So we also have regular meetings with children, with students, just to simply spread the information about emissions, about climate change, and also about carbon markets.
Awesome, awesome. So before we go further, I'd like you to explain what carbon offsets and like carbon trading, carbon markets are, because like some people listening to this podcast might really be unfamiliar with this term. So I want you to explain it like in a layman's term to the audience. Like what do you mean when you say carbon offsets, carbon trading, carbon markets? Can you help us with that?
Yeah, this is an excellent question because in general, there is a confusion between compliance markets and emission allowances and carbon credits. So the carbon credits are coming from climate-friendly projects, as I've mentioned before. But the market of carbon offsets is pretty complex. And due to the fact that it is not really regulated by laws like the compliance markets, they are a little bit difficult to understand, but I try to explain the essence in a nutshell. So the carbon credits are generated by these climate-friendly projects that can take place literally anywhere. Most of them are, however, implemented in developing countries where the green transition is, of course, desirable, but a carbon tax or an emissions trading system like the one we have in Europe would most probably bankrupt the companies there. So these type of climate-friendly projects are a good solution for these developing countries, and they gained on visibility and also on popularity after 1997, when parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change adopted the Kyoto Protocol. And this protocol recognized these projects, and it also said that they really contribute to the effective reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. The United Nations called these the Clean Development Mechanism, or CDM. Of course, strict rules for the methodologies, for the monitoring of the projects, and the verification have been elaborated. And the project corresponding to these requirements, to these very strict rules, were awarded carbon credits. Each credit is equivalent to the reduction of 1 ton of CO2 emission or removal of 1 ton of CO2 from the atmosphere. Of course, with time, the market increased, and now we do not have only the UN recognizing these projects. We have more standards, like I've mentioned before, Gold Standard, Vera, the American Carbon Registry, Puro Earth, etc., etc. And all of them have their own list of methodologies and, of course, their own credit types. I know I've mentioned methodologies a couple of times, so maybe I should explain what does it mean?
Okay.
What are methodologies? So these are different means that allow the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions or the removal of CO2 from the atmosphere. So think about technologies like renewable energy, wind or solar, biogas that we are implementing, or think about nature-based solutions like afforestation, so planting trees, or the mangrove projects, or biochar. All these technologies contribute to the emission reduction in the economy in general. So the next question that might arise that, okay, this is all very nice, but why do we need these carbon credits, and who exactly needs the credits? So it's easy to see that these projects require a significant upfront investment from companies like Pact Capital. And in many cases, the investment would only return in many, many years. So to rephrase it, the projects wouldn't be profitable for the investors without the additional revenue from selling the carbon credits. And then, of course, the investors wouldn't invest in the project. As a consequence, all these climate-friendly projects wouldn't exist. So it is absolutely essential that these carbon projects are recognized, accredited, and receive this additional revenue from selling the carbon credits generated by the projects. And coming to the last point, we are actually the sellers, so we the project developers, but who are the buyers of the credits, who pays for them? Of course, these are those who would like to reduce their environmental impact and do not have the tools to mitigate own emissions domestically. So these can be businesses, can be governments, can be any organization, or even individuals, because I think the message of the scientists is very clear. The main cause of climate change is human activity, and it is urgent to take action and use all tools available to reduce our emissions. And these climate-friendly projects can help reaching this objective if they are implemented properly. So anyone can be actually a buyer of these credits. Actually, if somebody is interested, then it is worth mentioning that, of course, the credits have a primary and the secondary market. So primary market means that if somebody would like to purchase credits, then they can turn to project developers directly, for example, to us, to Pact Capital. But of course, we have a limited selection of projects we have invested in. But there is also a secondary market for carbon credits. There are certain exchanges that are trading carbon credits. There is even a futures market. Derivatives for carbon credits exist already. So there are different solutions for those who would like to support emission mitigation in this way. And once purchased by the end user, the carbon credits get cancelled in the registry where they are held. In general, the standards that are issuing the credits to the projects, they are keeping these carbon credits in the registry, like Verra has its registry or gold standard. And once these credits get cancelled by the buyer, by the end user, they become offsets because they offset a company's or an individual's emissions. So this is, let's say, the life cycle of the emission credits or the carbon credits. I hope this makes sense.
Yeah, it does, but I have several questions after that. So first of all, I know you guys, you said you invest in projects. So is it that, like, for example, there might be a startup or a company trying to work on like a biogas project, for example, and you guys can actually go invest in them? Or do you, like, does Pact Capital actually create the project from scratch and develop it? Are they just like investors? Do they partner with like companies that do that, or do they like it's within, like, internally, like they go out, like they have staffs internally that like go to implement different projects? I'd like to get that straight. That's one.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe answer that. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah.
So that's an easy one actually, because we have examples and projects for both. So we have projects where we joined later. So there were already plans and feasibility studies for a project available. However, financing was missing, and then we stepped in. The company we joined simply needed more experience with actually the issuance of credits or the trading of credits, because this is still a quite niche market, and we can claim a long time experience in trading carbon credits, and we could contribute with this part. But of course, we have also engineers in our team who can do the feasibility studies themselves. So we also have projects that we have started from totally scratch.
Oh, okay.
and we have done all the necessary work within our own company. So everything is working.
Okay.
We are also happy to cooperate with other companies, but we have the capacities internally to do the projects from scratch ourselves.
Okay. So next question is, how do you choose what type of project to collaborate in? Because like there are different carbon removal projects, like you said, like the nature-based, like afforestation, or the technology-based, or like biogas, carbon capture. Do you guys do everything? And how do you do your due diligence to know actually how much reductions or capture is being like it's taking place? Do you have internal analysts that does that, or do you confirm with like a registered body for tracking like this carbon offset?
Yes. So when it comes to a project opportunity, the first thing we do is, of course, a feasibility study. And to do that, we mainly use our internal sources. As mentioned before, we have a team, a specialized team with decades of experience in the field. So they are able to do all the related calculations, financial calculations, and also emission reduction calculations. So they prepare a baseline for the project, and also they calculate what happens if the project gets implemented, and if this is then financially profitable on the long run. And based on that, we decide if it is worth doing the project or not. And once we start the implementation, of course, we have to consult a third party, an independent verifier, who makes it sure that the numbers we calculate with are really reliable and correspond to the reality.
Okay.
Otherwise, no standard would register our project and issue the credits for our projects. So an independent verifier and the accreditation or the report of an independent verifier is essential and absolutely necessary for a project to be accredited and to get the credits.
Okay. So I also,
I think,
yeah, you answered the question. But the next question now is, you stated that you guys do this mostly in developing countries. And like, yeah, there are different projects you can invest in that would have like direct effect on like the local communities. But I'll use an example. If you're doing afforestation, for example, in a community that doesn't even know about carbon removal, how do they benefit from that? Because like there are communities. For example, I'm originally from Nigeria. There are communities where like people just come and say they invest, but the local people know nothing about it. They gain nothing from it. So how do you guys ensure that justice? Because this is like an environmental justice issue, because you cannot just go somewhere and say you're investing something and the local people do not gain anything whatsoever from it. It was just like a certain group of people that did the community. So how do you guys ensure that in your process?
Agree completely. So I think that the cooperation with the local people is absolutely essential. And it happens on two levels when we are implementing the project. First of all, of course, we have to coordinate with the local authorities. And in general, the authorities know the people who live there very well. And they are able to represent their interests as well. But this is only the first step. Once we go on site, we also stick to meet the local people who are there. We are having regular discussions with them. We are also coordinating because let's be honest, if we implement a project and we are able to source things we need for the project, be it pipes or anything locally, and we do not have to transport it from a third country, it gets cheaper. And it also creates jobs and opportunities for the local people. But let me just mention you two exact examples, okay, from existing or started projects where we cooperated directly with the local people. One is the efficient lighting project we implemented in India. There we actually sourced the new lights, the LED lights, from local companies. So we didn't import the lights from another country, from Europe, for example. Everything has been purchased from companies in India. So this is one thing. Another project, we have started an afforestation project in Pakistan. So here, the first thing is that we had to make sure that we are allowed to implement the afforestation project on fields, on plots that are owned by communities. So these are very rigorous legal processes we have to go through in order to be entitled to use the plots of the communities. And everything has been documented and agreed with these communities. And then, of course, they were also involved in the implementation of the project. For example, we met them to ask what are the local species, what we should plant there, what are the trees that we should plant there, because they are living there, they know the plots best. So we didn't want to bring species that wouldn't survive in those plots, right?
Okay.
This is a common interest. And just to share one short story, of course, the plants need irrigation when planted, right? And then there were some families asking if we can expand the irrigation system just a little bit so that their gardens can be irrigated as well. And it means just a little bit extra cost for us, but if it improves their conditions, we are happy to do that. So we just did what they asked for. So I think these are good examples of how project developers can work together with the local people in harmony, and how projects can be profitable not only on financial levels, for all participants in the project.
When I was going through your website, like Pact Capital, I saw that there's usually like a crediting period. So, you implement a project. When does the crediting period start? And is it the life cycle of the project, or there's actually just a time where like maybe 10 years is the credit period, even if beyond 10 years, that project still goes on. So how do you guys determine this and why?
Yes, actually, the crediting period does not really depend on us. It's generally the standards who are controlling the projects and issuing the credits who define the crediting period for the project. Of course, we can ask for a renewal of the crediting period, but in order to get this request approved, we also have to prove that the project is still going on and is still contributing to emission reduction targets.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't really depend on us, but we can contribute to the renewal and the continuous emission reduction of the projects.
So I'd like to learn from you. How substantial of an impact do you think carbon credits are? And I'm asking this because there are some, like you said, the buyers are other companies. These might be big polluters, and because they have the money, they just pay and claim credits. Even like in the news as of last 2 years, there was like a scandal of a company claiming carbon neutrality just from buying credits. So how substantial do you think this impact is? Do you think it's right for us to just be buying and selling the credits, and like the big polluters that have the money can just pay? Or like, is there something we need to do to make sure like they don't just like, is there a right price that this carbon credit needs to be to actually make an impact? Yeah.
Yes. Excellent question. Thank you very much for that. So in my opinion, if defined properly and if implemented properly, then carbon projects and carbon markets can be an effective tool of emission reductions. However, as I mentioned, proper definition and implementation are key. And these are necessary to have transparency and integrity in these markets. It's my personal opinion, but I think that at the moment, compliance markets are more effective in forcing companies to reduce emissions. Like in the EU, we have an emissions trading system since 2005, and we saw that emissions have been reduced by time, while the GDP growth was still there. So emission reduction and GDP growth simply decoupled. But actually, voluntary carbon market has an important role as well. And we just had the latest confirmation of that at the COP in Dubai, when the governments acknowledged the role of the voluntary carbon markets. In practice, when it comes to offsetting, and when we are cooperating with companies, we are also working with oil and gas companies, aviation companies, but also sport clubs or event organizers who would like to offset their emissions. So the first thing we are doing in the framework of a consultation is that we ask them to prepare a thorough emission report. So just to collect data from the sources of emissions within the company. And then the first thing to do is looking at emission mitigation opportunities in-house and the cost of that. And if this is more expensive or simply not feasible, then the last step is to purchase offsets and use the carbon credits. So I think that this is the prudent approach to use the voluntary carbon credits.
Yeah.
And I think that this should be the methodology the companies are implementing, and not just buy credits at the cheapest price possible.
Yeah.
The next step is also to look at the projects and ask the project developers for transparency, for visibility. I will be honest with you, our projects are not huge. So these are little projects, but we like them because this way we can keep the control and we can have an overview on the processes, on implementation, and also on the issuance of credits. And it's easy, therefore, also for us to provide transparency towards our buyers. And I think that this is also something that in these days, more and more companies are asking for, simply because of the articles, the reports you've also mentioned that scrutinized certain projects and found them problematic. Do not risk the blame or the negative PR, let's put it like that, of using questionable credits, right?
Yeah.
So I think that in the last couple of months, the purification process that started in the voluntary carbon market is an absolutely positive development. And Pact Capital is really supporting all initiatives that direct the voluntary carbon market towards this higher integrity and more transparency.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the fact that you said you guys asked for like more of like the carbon accounting of these companies like that are coming to you guys and actually looking through to see that they can actually improve their process, and the last thing should be the carbon offset rather than the first thing being the cap. I think that's a wonderful route to take. So thank you very much for sharing that. So I know you said that you guys, like, your projects are not that big and all, but yes, you still invest in diverse projects. So can you tell us, like, what challenges have you guys encountered and how did you guys work through it?
I think that the first step is always the thorough evaluation of the opportunity. Of course, we check if the project is feasible, if the local conditions are favorable. For example, if we take the biogas project, then where to source the waste from, or how can we solve the transportation? If the authorities are helpful, these are sometimes challenging because if we are entering a new country, the government or the authorities do not have experiences with carbon projects, then often we have to help them. We have to show them the official documents, or we simply have to make them familiar with the carbon projects, the standards. So we have to check several parameters,
Mm.
and we have to take them into consideration. Of course, when we are selecting the projects, I have to say it, we have to estimate already in the beginning who the buyers of the credits would be. So right now, for example, we see that there is a higher demand for nature-based credits. So maybe in the future, we consider more projects of this type. The most challenging issue, I would say, is gaining the trust of the counterparties. In times when the prices decline, and also, as we mentioned before, some projects got under increased scrutiny. Credit prices of almost all methodologies declined significantly in the past year. And despite the fact that we have never had any interest in those projects, or even project types that have been scrutinized, it is challenging to make the projects profitable, and also to convince the buyers of our credits that our projects are really high quality and reliable projects. So I think that this is the biggest challenge these days.
Okay, thank you. So, but what like to wrap up, what's your outlook for like the carbon market in 2024 and beyond? Where do you see it going?
Wow, that's a difficult one.
Yeah, like just like
yeah, as I mentioned, 2023 for project developers was quite challenging. I think that the first half of this year will be as difficult as 2023 was, because let's confess, a high inflation, high interest rate environment, and the geopolitical risks are not supportive at all for these projects and for the carbon markets. Like many companies that are more buyers have to prioritize their own financial stability, consolidate their supply chains, and therefore they have less resources left for climate action. And last year's criticism towards certain projects did a lot of harm also to other projects and their credits. And it will take time until trust returns to the market. But of course, this requires actions from all participants. The standards have to review their methodologies and their crediting practices, and the project developers have to put more emphasis on being transparent on their actions. And maybe in the second half of the year, or I'm more optimistic for the second half of the year, because there have been many positive initiatives also last year that, in my opinion, might bear fruit in the second half of this year. Just to mention two of them, the Integrity Council for the Voluntary Carbon Market, or the ICVCM, has started the preparation of the core carbon principles. So we hope that the principles will be finalized this year, and that we can see the first high quality credits hitting the market this year already. I think that this would bring back trust in the climate friendly projects and the carbon credits, and it would have a positive impact on the market in general. And also after the COP28 in Dubai, we were quite disappointed, because the negotiators were not able to agree on the rules of Article 6 that would have established the new international carbon market. But we are very hopeful that negotiations continue during the year, and that the rules can be agreed at the end of the year in Azerbaijan at the next COP. and we will get more clarity in this regard as well. So I hope that these will help the carbon market in developing further. And as I've mentioned before, we have seen, in my opinion, a purification process starting last year. We hope that this continues, and the voluntary carbon market and the carbon projects just start a new life cycle that also contributes to the global fight against climate change.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Bernadett, for really walking us through this process, like teaching us about like the carbon market, trading, voluntary markets and all, and also enlightening us on what Pact Capital is actually doing to improve this space. I and my audience were really appreciative. So thank you very much. So to the
I thank you very much.
Yeah. So to the listeners,
thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Thanks. So to our listeners, thank you for sticking on to this point and the interview. I'm going to be leaving Bernadett's details. Like she said earlier, they also have a podcast for Pact Capital. I'll be leaving the link in the description box. So you can find it there. And yeah, until next time, continue to live consciously. I'll see you in my next podcast. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to the Sustainability Nuggets podcast. I am Rarsu Marabi.
And I am Tosin Folorunsho. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a rating and review on wherever you listen to your podcast.
You can also show your support by signing up for a small donation to help sustain future episodes. You can find all relevant links in the description. See you in our next episode.